Key point 1. 3 pounds of 100 billion neurons determine our life. The brain is the source of pain and pleasure, love and hate. It's responsible not only for thinking, learning, and mental abilities we need for work. This organ reacts to every tiny stimulus inside the body and in the outer world. The power it has over our lives is impressive. Yes, the brain controls us and defines our behavior. But what if something goes wrong? In the worst-case scenarios, it causes madness and attacks us with intrusive thoughts, voices, and memory loss. Historically, the brain has been compared to a book with all the answers, a theater, a church organ, and a machine. Reading We Are Our Brains, you will see that all of the statements make sense to some extent. This gelatinous mass contains everything that this person thought and experienced, coded and recorded in structural and molecular changes to the synapses. D.F. Schwab. D.F. Schwab doesn't just give us some boring theory. He explains who we are and why we are like that. We are our brains. By studying disorders, we learn how the brain normally functions. Unfortunately, we still can't cure some of them, but now we are closer than ever before and have insights that, in the nearest future, will be tested for the treatment of patients. And who knows, maybe soon we'll cure aging. Also, why do we believe in God? Is it beneficial for us or not? The author shares his perspective and provides examples of 2 sides of the argument. In this summary, you will find out whether gender and sexual orientation are predetermined or a question of choice, and you will look closer at the relationship with parents. Another crucial accent is made on autism, schizophrenia, and dementia. Is there something positive about having a disorder? People with autism prove that you can have talents even though you are limited in social behavior. Remember, love at first sight exists. However, this choice of partner is random. The brain programs all our choices. Key point 2. The baby actively participates in labor and speeds up the process. We all come to this world in the same way. Most likely, your life has started in the hospital where your mother gave birth after hours of suffering. The moment her body felt that she couldn't provide her child with enough nutrition, the sugar level in the baby's blood decreased. After that, the child and its mother's brains secrete oxytocin to lighten the labor process. Keep in mind, interestingly, the most efficient time for giving birth is night or morning when it happens faster and smoother. However, sometimes some harmful difficulties occur during the delivery that can cause damage to the brain and numerous illnesses as consequences. Neurobiologists recently discovered that schizophrenia is a generic abnormality. Thus, the loss of connection between a mother's and her child's brains can be seen as a symptom. A good environment is not a luxury, it is a necessity. R. Wollheim. Historically, men have to protect their families physically. Patriarchy was developed precisely in this period when our ancestors had to fight for survival, and it benefits evolution as they can reproduce often. However, mothers also have vasopressin, a hormone that leads to maternal aggression for kids' protection. Both women and men can feel changes in their brains right after the pregnancy period starts. The testosterone level decreases in male bodies and they become more caring. Prolactin in female bodies provokes the desire for nesting, and women readily decorate the baby's room and buy cute clothes after discovering the pregnancy. For mothers, these changes are permanent, and no wonder they still ask us to call after landing to ensure we're safe. The bond between a child and its mother is a biological necessity for survival, prompted by oxytocin. For instance, it also boosts the breast milk to feed a toddler and makes women more responsive to a baby's cry. At the same time, the hormone increases for both of them when a mother spends time with her offspring. Moreover, when a child shares their problem with their mother, they feel better due to the secretion of oxytocin, the love hormone. To sum up, evolution makes both genders adjust their behavior for procreation. Key point 3. Are you a boy or a girl? That's what you decide in the womb. Not only genes, but also the mother's habits and the environment where she lives are equally crucial for the baby's development when they're in the womb. Another essential point is nourishment. The lack of it causes damage to the baby's brain and may lead to depression or schizophrenia in the future. So dieting and fasting are as harmful to a baby as drinking alcohol and smoking. Statistically, almost every 10th woman doesn't give up smoking during pregnancy and takes the risk of neonatal death and premature birth. Every 4th woman tipples alcoholic beverages while endangering her child's mental abilities. What's going on inside the womb? Even though many feminists claim that gender is a social construct, numerous studies show that a baby determines its gender, sexual orientation, and the extent of aggression before birth. And it's more likely to be caused genetically rather than by the influence of the outer world. It doesn't make any sense when homophobic people declare that same-gendered couples and the legalization of official marriages for gay couples promote their sexual orientation. The sex organs are developed during the period during the 6th and 12th weeks of pregnancy. Schwab claims that later, children show different behavioral patterns. Boys are more active and prefer cars to dolls, and the games they choose prepare them for the future roles in adulthood. Girls like to draw women and use bright colors, while boys prefer dark colors and mainly picture mechanical objects. Keep in mind that children born during the famine are likely to choose fat food with higher calorie intake and decreased physical activity in adulthood. What about transgender people? We can say that their feeling of gender is also determined before birth, as human beings have so-called inner body maps. For instance, a person who suffers from BIID, body integrity identity disorder, strongly believes that some body part doesn't belong to their organism. They will constantly try to get surgery to get rid of it, but hardly any doctor is ready to help in this case. When it comes to transsexuality, in Western countries these operations take place daily. However, the patient must undergo a checkup, as some mental illnesses such as schizophrenia and bipolar depression can cause the same symptom. Key point 4. The brain usually makes up the information when it doesn't receive it and causes hallucinations. Young Picasso could barely read or write, and Einstein spoke slower than others. Where is the boundary between a mental disorder and talent? Daniel Tammet knows by heart pi to 22,514 decimal places. He regards numbers as his friends. He eats 45 grams of porridge daily and follows a strict regimen to regulate anxiety. The boy has high-functioning autism and can't make friends as he doesn't understand human emotions. The disorder is genetic, and numerous reasons can cause it. If your father was around 50 years old or some infections occurred in the womb, it can lead to autism later in life. Even though children with autism have difficulties with physical contact, they still require cuddles. Temple Grandin, an inventor of veterinary machinery, also had this dilemma and found a solution by constructing the hug machine that squeezed her and helped control her attacks. Every 10th child with autism is gifted with some extra skill, which is usually connected to a memory. Savants have a rare ability to transform short-term memories into long-term ones. However, they have difficulties with people's faces as their social brain is weakened. Don't forget, children tend to share with others that they hear voices only until they understand it's socially unacceptable. Exorcism, lobotomy, and electroshocks were the methods that doctors used for curing schizophrenia. 1% of the population suffers from this disease. The symptoms are positive, for example, delusions and hallucinations, and negative, unemotional behavior, inability to take care of oneself. Patients believe that what they experience is real, and scanning proves that the same areas in the brain are activated as if it was for real. Sometimes they hear voices telling them what to do, leading to committing crimes or suicide. Men face this illness more often, and it affects them more intensely. The first symptoms start at 20 years and can hardly be diagnosed, as before psychosis, they experience paranoia. For female patients, menopause provokes the second peak. Schizophrenia causes are mostly genetic, but also stress during pregnancy caused by traumatic events such as wartime or the loss of a partner. Also, the possibility of developing the illness is higher for the city dwellers. Until the 70s, doctors believed that a mother's coldness was the main reason. Did you know? Savant syndrome is a rare condition in which persons with mental disabilities, including autistic disorder, have some extraordinary talent. The most famous autistic savant is the fictional character Raymond Babbitt in the movie Rain Man. Interestingly, he was created based on a real man who has memorized over 6,000 books. Key point 5. 21 grams are lost in a person right after death. Is it a soul? What does it mean to be in a coma? Is it a dream or a postponed death? A coma results from brain damage and makes a patient unresponsive to external stimulations. In some cases, it can be caused by drug or alcohol intoxications. Some patients recover from it with time. Others have no perspective. A vegetative state is a condition of the organism that includes necessary functions for survival, like heartbeat and breathing. So when doctors say a patient is like a vegetable, they're still alive, but their brain is dead. They also may cough, sneeze, and open their eyes. For relatives, it's hard to believe that their significant other is dead. Euthanasia is illegal in numerous countries. It happens that families spend years in court to get the right to end a life of a family member in a coma. It's as if he has been abandoned twice, first by his brain, then by people who knew him, because no one visits him. Bert Kaiser. In contrast, locked-in syndrome means that the patient's brain is still working and conscious of themselves and their surroundings, but they are completely paralyzed. In most cases, they can only move with their eyes, and that's the method of communication for them. Jean-Dominique Bauby wrote a memoir using blinking to describe the perception of reality from his point of view. Remember, people who receive transplant organs, especially hearts, from the donors become more spiritual and believe that life has changed due to a new connection with a donor's organ. People tend to believe in spiritual incidents and prefer pseudo-scientific explanations to logic and rational reasoning. When it comes to near-death experiences, they describe similar experiences as the light in the dark tunnel, seeing Jesus or dead relatives, and extreme sensations of lightness. However, all these details can be explained scientifically. No, the reason isn't that the universe has a special mission for you. More likely, NDEs can be provoked by oxygen deprivation, fever, stressful or fearful situations, heart attack, or chemical substance effects. Other possible grounds are blood loss, coma, suicide attempt, near drowning, hyperventilation, depression, and LSD. The feeling of NDE occurs in the short moments when we are between consciousness and unconsciousness. Also, the tunnel is nothing more than a decreased blood circulation in the eye, and the relief can be explained as secreting opiates in the body. Long story short, near death isn't equal to death. Key point 6. Around 95% of Americans believe in God, but only 50% believe in hell. The question is not if God exists, but why so many people in the world are religious. Most of the population are Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, and Hindu, but there are also more than 10,000 different religions. Communists call it the opium of the masses. So how wrong were they? Interestingly, we are spiritual to some extent, even though we don't confess to a specific belief. Our family and environment left information in the brain during the early years, and we adjusted to it the same way as a mother tongue. Richard Dawkins, a famous evolutionary biologist, claims that kids are affected by their religious parents because they can't think critically. When one person has a delusion, they are considered crazy. When millions of people have the same illusion, they call it religion. Richard Dawkins. Thus, religion provides numerous benefits. It helps us to bond with others. Different beliefs ensure the group bond is vital, so they make strict rules to follow, forbid you to marry a person outside of this religion, use distinguishing attributes, and promote reproduction to grow the community. However, a feeling of kinship is delightful for us. Instinctively, we tend to be part of a bigger group. They have some ideas and actions that benefit us. Kosher food, praying that positively impacts our nervous system, and a feeling of protection by a group. Religion is very comforting, and people face natural disasters and hardships as a trial. Belief reassures us that everything makes sense and it will get better soon. Life after death. This point is crucial as it releases the people's main fear and helps us live through grieving. Remember that people tend to use religion as a coping mechanism in challenging situations. Usually, religion is associated with kindness and humanity, but it doesn't mean atheists are pure evil. They share the same values. In contrast, some religions have traditions and cults that are hardly connected to humanity. In 2007, the skeletons of children were found in Mexico City. 24 kids were cruelly murdered as a sacrifice to Tlaloc, a god of rain. Another example is female circumcision, a dangerous surgery supposed to help women control their sexual desires. It kills thousands of girls yearly, and those who survive to suffer during menstruation, sex, and even urination. The maltreatment of women is justified in some religions. The women are seen to be unclean during their periods and a short period after, which doesn't make any rational sense. Did you know? Practicing yoga and meditations affect our nervous system positively as it helps to produce melatonin, the sleep hormone, and decreases cortisol. Key point 7. ApoE4 gene can cause Alzheimer's in later life. If life is a gradual development process, then Alzheimer's is a disease that causes a reverse. A person slowly loses the ability to live normally and take care of themselves. Moreover, step by step, they lose their personality. The illness has something in common with aging, as it is more likely to occur when you're older, and they have similar brain alterations. However, a person can develop it at a younger age and spend the rest of their time struggling. The first symptoms include loss of memory or inappropriate behavior. Ronald Reagan, in his late 70s, became president of the U.S. in 1981 and announced that he would leave his post in case of Alzheimer's. In 1984, the first symptoms of the disease were noticed: misuse of articles and pronouns, longer pauses in his speeches, and lower speed of talking. In 1994, he publicly confessed that he had Alzheimer's. All the patients have similar developing damages in the brain and undergo similar stages, according to Dr. Barry Reisberg. 1. Normal functioning. 2. You seem normal, but you find your job demanding and challenging to maintain. 3. You can no longer cope with difficult situations at work, and your colleagues notice that. 4. You can hardly manage your finances. 5. You can't decide on clothes to wear. 6. You need assistance to get dressed, shower, and even use the toilet. 7. You lose your vocabulary and use only a few words. You can't walk, sit, and smile. In the end, you can't even hold your head as when you were a newborn. What to do to prevent Alzheimer's? You can minimize your chances by maximizing brain activity. For instance, speaking foreign languages, obtaining an education, working a challenging job, and stimulating your thinking and physical activities even when you're old. The number of patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease will likely double in the next 30 years. Aging is an inescapable process, and so is death. However, there are moments when we don't live anymore and exist while suffering daily from pain, humiliation, or depression. Euthanasia is the right to decide when to end your life, and now it's possible in several countries for patients with specific diagnoses, including dementia. Conclusion. People often believe that our feelings, desires, and love are located in our hearts. However, they are wrong. Your personality, with its fears, dreams, ambitions, and passions, is based in your brain, while the heart pumps blood to keep your body functioning. Even though you may feel your heart beating faster when you look at your loved one or when you're going to the interview for your dream job, your heart only reacts to what the brain commands. You were born with a unique brain that can be compared to a computer or a machine, but there's no such association that would be enough to cover all the duties your brain solves every day. When a baby's in the womb, numerous factors affect its brain development, including genes, nourishment, and mother's lifestyle, and her surroundings. Both parents create a special bond with a child, but the maternal connection is stronger and remains for the rest of our lives. During the 6th to 12th weeks of pregnancy, a baby decides on its gender, sexuality, and level of aggression. Shortly after birth, we learn our mother tongues and get influenced by religion if our parents share their beliefs with us. In the case of genetic factors and the harmful impact of the environment, we can develop diseases that affect our brains in the prenatal and later stages of our development. So, to prevent negative consequences, make sure you take care of your health, regularly visit doctors, especially if any symptoms occur, and follow a healthy lifestyle to feel better. Try this. Check on your family if you have relatives with mental diseases to make sure you aren't at risk. If you plan to have a baby, ensure that you follow all the recommendations during pregnancy to provide your child with the best conditions for development. And start a new hobby that will help you to stimulate your brain, learning Italian or playing chess.